Next, in our Capital Insight segment, State Representative Elaine Nekritz, who chairs the House Committee on Pensions, talks with us about what reforms might be possible now that the Supreme Court has said the earlier pension reform bill was unconstitutional. She also talks about efforts to reach a budget accord with Governor Rauner. This runs about 5 minutes.
All right, Representative Elaine Nekritz, thank you so much for joining us here on the Illinois Channel. Just picking up on the discussions on pension reform, where are we currently? The Supreme Court ruled that pension benefits cannot be diminished. Are there any new developments on this?
There aren't at this time. I think the legislature has pretty much accepted we've accepted the Supreme Court's ruling that can be no impact to benefits. And I think we were prepared in the upcoming FY16 budget to make the full statutorily required pension payment. Nothing's changed about that with the Supreme Court ruling, so that will, I'm pretty sure, be part of the upcoming budget discussions.
Okay, have you, since you're considered, one of the leaders, one of the lawmakers, when it comes to pensions, have there been any discussions with the governor's office?
The governor convened a pension working group with members of all four caucuses and individuals from staff from their office as well. And we were meeting up until the time that the Supreme Court ruled, and we had a couple of meetings since then. But I think right now we're all trying to sort of regroup and determine what our options are. I think, frankly, from my perspective, that those are very limited. I think the Supreme Court told us to go find a way to pay for it. So really, to my mind, the only questions before us are who's to pay and how to pay, and whether we want to extend out the payment cycle, change the statutory formula, do those kinds of things. None of which I think are good options at this point.
Okay, let's discuss that a little bit more. Can you delve a little bit deeper? What are some of the most reasonable options available?
Well, one of the things that we frankly just did for the city of Chicago was to change the schedule on which they have to make their payments. We could do that for the state, but my view is we're struggling to make the pension payment, but we are making it, and so I don't see any reason to roll that back and kick the can down the road and again inflate the payments in the future any more than they're already going to be inflated. I say we struggle to make the payment now and continue fighting our way through that over the next several decades.
Would it be a possibility to add that Tier 3 for those that became state employees after 2011 and after?
We could do a Tier 3. Right now, Tier 2 is a very inexpensive benefit, and in fact, there are those who would say that Tier 2, the individuals hired after January 2011, are in fact subsidizing the pension system, paying more into it than their benefit is worth. At some point, I would think as a matter of fairness, we need to change that. My goal, and I have discussed this with some folks at the governor's office, would be to do what's called a cash balance plan. I know their preference is to do a 401k style plan, but we haven't gotten any further in the discussion than that.
Can you explain that cash balance plan for those that aren't sure what that is?
So it is a plan that would not be novel to Illinois. Nebraska's adopted it. Louisiana has adopted it. It's kind of a shared risk plan. Employers and employees put into the system, and there is a floor and a ceiling on the amount of interest that's accrued in the account for that individual. It's like a 401k in that each individual has their own account that keeps track of how much they put in, how much the employer puts in, and how much interest they earn. So all the dollars are in one big pool, so they're invested as a big pool. That's what makes it different than a 401k.
Okay. What do you think of the possibility of taxing pension benefits that are over a certain amount, say $100,000? Would you support a bill like this?
Well, I don't think that's a question for the pensions. That's a revenue question, and I think that will be, if that's going to happen, I think it would be part of an overall revenue discussion and an overall budget negotiation.
Okay. Do you see? I guess the question is, how are things moving forward on this topic? and the negotiation process?
On the revenue side, well, that's the big debate we're having right now. Is the governor is insisting on a number of non-revenue and non-budget items in order for him to have a discussion about that, and I think the legislature is saying, we need a budget. We need it now. Let's focus solely on those issues before us, and put those non-budget, non-fiscal matters aside, because they don't do anything to solve the state's budget crisis. They're a different agenda that the governor has.
Okay, is there anything else that you'd like to add?
I think so.
Great, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much.